Dorian barrels towards our area. The Outer Banks are right in the crosshairs, but you can expect heavy rain and flooding in Hampton Roads, too. And the threat is very real in Hatteras. Many people say they're not evacuating.
If it were a 4 or 5, we'd be out of here. But no, we'll stay.
But now they're taking it seriously. We spoke to people who spent all day boarding up. In Norfolk, flooding is the issue. We're talking to city officials about how they're getting ready for the worst.
Our special coverage of Hurricane Dorian starts right now. We have extensive live team coverage from around the area as Dorian now makes its final approach up the East Coast.
Tonight, our team coverage brings us to Nags Head. Dare County advises everyone to shelter in place tonight after the curfew took effect at 8, about 40 minutes ago. Officials told 13 News Now reporter Jacqueline Lee they get bad storms all the time. One couple said they're actually just going to enjoy their time together.
In the last few hours here in the Outer Banks, the winds have really started to pick up. The waves have grown so much larger as Dorian starts to move in. Now, I spoke with homeowners and they say the key to surviving a hurricane is tying down the furniture, just like those chairs that are up on the deck over there. What that does is it prevents the winds from blowing the furniture into the house. Peggy and Jerry DeVault say they've seen it all together.
You know, we get nor'easters that have wind like this. So, you know, we're kind of used to it.
In between 50 years of marriage and 15 years in the Outer Banks, they say Hurricane Dorian is nothing.
We know the Lord's going to take care of us, so we're staying put.
Not scared one bit.
As the Category 2 storm barrels towards the Outer Banks, businesses have shuttered their doors and the tourists are long gone. But the DeVaults are among the locals deciding to ride it out.
Tired of furniture.
All our furniture up down here. Even did the swing out in the yard because you don't want that beating and banging. Fill the bathtub up so that, you know, in case there is a problem with water, that it gets cut off.
They said they're prepared for any storm. So when the wind picks up,
man, I can't get any cars.
And the rain starts pouring.
He cheats. That's what it is. I call it cheating. You'll go.
They wait it out together.
I'll keep her around. Another 50 maybe.
Maybe.
Behind there's trees, there's water.
Tish Perry points to the source of what may cause flooding inside her Nags Head Island home when Hurricane Dorian arrives.
You never know until it gets here. So there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of media hype, there's a lot of news hype, there's a lot of Facebook hype.
Despite evacuation orders, the longtime resident doesn't plan to leave. Instead, she's enjoying a reprieve from the tourists.
Nobody's here. The restaurants, all the businesses closed for the most part, and it's quiet.
While many longtime residents like Perry don't plan to evacuate, businesses aren't taking any chances. Like this J. Crew store, all boarded up. And it's not because they suspect that they will have significant damage. It's to prevent looting.
It's the calm before the storm.
An island anxious and closing ahead of a storm. The price they pay for living in paradise.
Even on his birthday.
Yep, 29th birthday.
Pastor Tim Fitch makes preparing for Hurricane Dorian his mission.
And a lot of people are thinking that the sound's gonna flood a lot.
So with a truck full of 2 kids, his wife, and us tagging along, he helps those in his home of Hatteras Island.
It's about helping those people who really can't help themselves.
That means cleaning up yard debris.
I got my pants.
And even boarding windows on homes, even though firefighter Wade Weigel was ahead of the game.
First, we have a rule to take care of ourselves first, and so that we can take better care of others.
Like Jean Hooper, who's staying in her home, but spoke to us from a hurricane-ready historic church.
I've only left one time in 84 years.
She believes Dorian will have some kind of impact on the island.
God will take care of me.
But with the community in the storm's direct path,
yeah, we are.
worry inevitably creeps in.
Trying not to be.
And today, after 29 years of life on the island,
Cool, we're gonna stop by after I got one load.
Fitch says he knows all they can do is prepare, pray, and help.
This is what being community is about.
You may have heard this. The bigger the storm, the more intense it is. That is actually fiction. According to NOAA's Hurricane Research Division, there's little correlation between the size of a storm and its intensity. 1992's Hurricane Andrew, great example. Andrew was a small storm that intensified into a Category 5, hitting South Florida with 165-mile-per-hour winds. How about this one? Taping windows is the best way to protect them. Also fiction. A few strips of tape won't do anything to protect glass from hard-driven debris. The idea that tape helps reduce shatter, that may be true, but that also makes it downright dangerous, because pieces of glass that do break actually end up being bigger. Your best bet, if you don't have shutters, use plywood. And maybe you've heard this claim. We're seeing more high-intensity hurricanes today than we did 20 years ago. This one's fact. In the past 24 years, we've seen 16 above normal hurricane seasons. That's the worst stretch on record. And when you look at the top 10 costliest hurricanes on record, factoring in inflation, every single one of them, except for Hurricane Andrew in '92, happened within the last 2 decades.
Vulnerable areas.
13 News Now meteorologist Tim Pandages.
The oceans are steering more heat. That's more energy for these storms to take advantage of. And we see highly intense storms like Dorian, like Maria, like Harvey, like Florence, like Michael becoming much more frequent.
So there you have it. A few things for you to set straight during one of those inevitable weather conversations.
Dorian is on our doorstep, and it's just as dangerous as we predicted. It's churning off the coast of the Carolinas tonight, teetering between a Category 2 and 3.
As we hit 11 o'clock, we are getting new video of the damage Dorian left in Charleston. Now this storm is taking aim at Hampton Roads and the Outer Banks. We're continuing to track Hurricane Dorian. Thanks for trusting us to keep you updated. I'm Nicole Livis.
And I'm David Allen. We helped you prepare for the storm. Now we're helping you get through it. Let's get you up to speed. First up, parking garages in Norfolk are filling up fast. That's the latest update from the city. VDOT says there is no plan to close the HRBT or the Monitor Merrimack. And of course, schools across the region are closed tomorrow.
This is the team keeping you covered. More than a dozen 13 News Now reporters using their contacts, getting updates, and keeping you safe and informed. That includes these 3 right here. They're on deck with new information. But first, let's get to the chief and that all-important 11 o'clock advisory. Jeff.
And I'm excited. They not only, I told them that they should, well, I told you guys that they should lower the amount of wind that we were expecting. And they've even gone to what I said they should do, not what I thought they would do, because they tend to be too conservative. And I'll show you that in a minute. You can see the rain now all the way up here into South Side, and that pink outline, or sort of purple outline, that is a severe thunderstorm watch, and that is until tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock.
All right, Hatteras is a ghost town tonight, and for those still on the island, it is too late to leave. Emergency managers telling everyone to now shelter in place. Stephen Graves is live near the northern tip of Hatteras tonight. And Stephen, one band of rain just moved through, and I can tell you there's another not far behind.
And David, we can expect that band of rain to be heavy. We've seen it here over the past couple hours. When it comes sideways and fast. People on Hatteras Island who have been there some of the longest amount of time say they expect this damage to be serious. Heavy surf from the ocean this evening, already getting uncomfortably close to homes in Rodanthe. And this isn't even the beginning of Hurricane Dorian's projected wrath.
It's going to be a nasty one.
Longtime Buxton business owner John Couch says Dorian looks dominant. Many locals say they know flooding is inevitable.
Said to prepare for chest deep water back here.
Chest deep. That's why boaters and even first responders in Frisco took to higher ground to put vehicles around a church.
All of our things are up at the house. This was the last step.
And the sound side here is what locals say they're mainly worried about because Dorian's winds look like they will push this water onto the road. Highway 12 is one of the biggest concerns. 13 News Now already saw inches of water on the pavement near Hatteras Village. If storm surge makes it impassable, those on the island are stuck. Officials put out a warning that it will also be tough to get resources to the island.
We're heating it, and we just hope and pray that all of our friends and family away and here survive this thing.
And during our time on the island today, we did see some first responders trekking Highway 12. We assume to check on people to make sure everything is okay. Remember, that curfew is in place until noon tomorrow. Live here in the Outer Banks, Stephen Graves, 13 News Now.
All right, we can hear that rain there loud and clear, Stephen. Thank you. Let's bring in Andy Perotti now. He's a few miles up NC-12 in Nags Head with the message from county officials. Andy?
Yeah, county officials have been telling people for the past 3 days that it is too dangerous. You need to leave. You need to evacuate. Now they're saying it's too dangerous to leave.
This is a message from Dare County Emergency Management. The time to safely evacuate has passed, and Emergency Management is advising those in Dare County to shelter in place.
Hurricane Dorian has finally arrived, and emergency officials say it's now too dangerous to evacuate.
Dorian's on the path now. He's picking up speed. He's coming to Dare County.
Dare County Emergency Management Director Drew Pearson says those who stayed behind run the risk of not getting help when they need it.
We may not be able to help them, but we're really concerned about them.
So I'm a little bit nervous about that.
Adrian Little is one of many Nags Head residents who did not evacuate, knowing the risk of floods and hurricane force winds.
I feel like we've gotten lucky the past few hurricanes that have been here, so this one is making me a little nervous.
Longtime residents who've gone through hurricanes before say when it does flood, it has nothing to do with the ocean going over the sand dunes, but everything about the sound on the other side of the island.
All right, if you want to look up what zone you're in earlier, if you wanted to, that is, you may have seen this message from the Virginia Department of Emergency Management. Well, we just checked. It is back up and running, but we know there are still a lot of questions.
That's why we had meteorologist Craig Moeller explain how it all works.
With the threat of tropical systems across Hampton Roads and coastal Virginia, it's important to know your zone. Coastal communities in Virginia are broken down into 4 zones, A, B, C, and D. When a system actually threatens the area, instructions to evacuate or shelter in place will be given based on these zones. So how do you know your zone? Well, you can go to knowyourzoneva.org. And if you don't have access to a computer, you can contact your local emergency manager or call 211. To show you how easy it is, let's go to the computer. So after clicking the link, you're going to see a place where you can put your address. So here, let's use the station, 613 Woodis Avenue, and then it zooms in to our location. Now, our station is very close to the Elizabeth River, and we are very susceptible to flooding. We're in Zone A. So if the tides were going to be coming up, if the water levels on the Elizabeth River were going to create flooding issues, this would be one of the first areas to evacuate. But it's important to note other parts of Norfolk not too far away, like look at how close Centera Norfolk General Hospital, that's Zone B. And if you go just a few more blocks up, you'll pick up Park Place. They're in Zone C. So it's this type of detail that emergency managers believe will make for smoother evacuations and also prevent over evacuations. That's why it pays to know your zone.
We are starting to get reports of damage. Reporter Madison Kimbrough is in Norfolk over on Kingston Avenue in Ocean View. That's where a tree has fallen down. And Madison, looks like you're up close to that tree. How big are we talking here?
Okay, Dan, this is definitely a different situation from yesterday. Remember yesterday we were preparing you guys for the storm? Well, today, obviously, the storm is here. Take a look behind me. This is a massive tree that completely split in half, and it takes up the whole roadway. It honestly made us think that there were bushes in the way, but this street is completely covered by this tree. You can look, it completely covered this car right over here. The car is destroyed. It destroyed this car over here, and then there's another car behind that. Now, Dominion workers, you can hear they're using their tools to really cut through the debris and try to cut these trees off so they can clear the pathway.
Our team coverage continues in North Carolina. 13 News Now reporter Allie Weatherton is there. She is monitoring conditions in Nags Head. Allie, about an hour ago, you said wind gusts were the worst you'd seen them. What's it like now?
Well, the wind gusts are continuing to get stronger and stronger, which means Hurricane Dorian is definitely on its way here. You can probably hear the wind actually picking up through my microphone. That's how strong these wind gusts are. Now, like about 30 minutes ago, the sun just started to come up, so you can probably barely see the ocean. I can see it. It's very, very choppy out there. Conditions are expected to get worse here as Hurricane Dorian inches closer and closer here to the Outer Banks. Now, earlier today, this morning, about 2 o'clock this morning, we walked outside. We thought the wind gusts were bad then. It's continuing to get worse.
All right, let's head over now to Evan Watson there at the ocean front. Very windy there too, Evan, we can see.
Yeah, that's no surprise, is it, guys? Welcome back to the ocean front, where it's almost like a small acupuncture treatment with the sand biting in the face. But conditions now, the wind's coming a little bit more from the north-northwest than just from the northwest and west. It was pushing the sand kind of directly towards the boardwalk earlier. Now it's kind of pushing it down the boardwalk. And speaking of down the boardwalk, if you look this way, this is my homemade visibility index. It's about 2.5 hotels that you can see down there on the boardwalk, maybe 3 if you look down that way. Other than that, just sheets of rain coming in from the northwest off the ocean here.
We also want to get an update now on conditions in North Carolina. Let's check in with meteorologist Tim Pandages, who's now outside of the storm mode SUV. Tim, where are you?
Holy guacamole! All right, guys, we're coming to you from Nags Head. We're only a couple miles from Alley Weatherton, but man, has the winds picked up here. We've got to be over hurricane force wind gusts right now. We are right along NC 12, just, a row of houses back from the ocean. The winds, I'd say, we're probably just due north right now. We are still getting pelted by all that sand. And I heard Evan talking about it, kind of feels like acupuncture. I got a better one for you, Evan, if he's listening. It feels like it, when your arm or your leg falls asleep and it starts to come back, it feels like those. Little pins hitting you all over the place. And man, these winds are strong. We've seen some trees down, some minor damage, but again, a lot of these houses are built to withstand this type of wind, so not seeing too much in terms of any big issues.
Let's head right over now to Madison Kimbrough in Norfolk. She had a downed tree earlier this morning in one part of the area, and now you found another downed tree that fell on a home.
Absolutely, Ashley. So obviously it was on the car, but this one is really looking like it totally destroyed the home. And I'm actually here with the homeowner. His name is Dan. Dan, this is really tragic. I'm so sorry that you're having to deal with this. Obviously, this storm is pretty chaotic right now. What are your thoughts on the next step and just trying to rebuild?
Well, the next step, yeah, it's just trying to file the insurance claim, being sure that everyone's all right. Fortunately, I had a tenant in there, but she seems to be okay. I'm just glad no one else got hurt more.
Okay, let's have some more images and kind of video of what you can kind of see where the tree really just split in half and then it collapsed right on top of the house. And then you can see it's also on the car. The car doesn't look like it's too damaged. Tell us about the resident that was inside. Is she okay or is he okay?
She seems to be okay. The medics took her away, but she walked away. So fortunately, she walked away.
Oh my gosh, and when did you discover that this happened?
Well, I live on the other side, and I was just sitting there enjoying my morning coffee, and the whole house started to shake.
Oh my gosh, wow. All right, well, we'll keep you updated on the latest as far as this house goes with the tree, and it's really just such a sight to see. And thank you, Dan, for being willing to talk. Sending it back to the news desk.
Hi, I'm in Elizabeth City. This is on Flora Street and Riverside Avenue. I know you didn't even know where I was, but you can see just how flooded it is. This is what emergency management warned people about yesterday when they issued that mandatory evacuation for some areas. It is very flooded, and the further back I walk, you can see I'm just sinking deeper and deeper into the water. I want to show you something else. If my photographer can just pan over, the wind is blowing pretty hard through here, and it's causing this water to just wash up along the street further and further down and off to my other side. There's something else going on. A massive tree snapped and fell. It went across the street, is covering the entire road.
We experienced just how powerful the winds were just a few hours ago. My photographer and I were ready for a live shot. We thought we were in a secure place where a large, thick, glassy area was protecting us from the winds, and then in a matter of moments, bam, it shattered all over us and another news crew. We were okay. We were checked out by EMT, another photographer at another station. He was taken to a hospital. He's doing okay. But it reminded us of the power of the wind, that you have to take this stuff seriously. And we were just outside of our hotel. We weren't out into the elements. We were what we thought were being protected by a glass wall, essentially. And then in just a matter of moments, that glass wall shattered.
Well, Janet, now that it has calmed down just a little bit, I mean, the winds are gusting, but it's not nearly as bad as it was earlier. Like you said, we can finally take a look at the damage. So look at this fence. Not only did it get blown over, but actual pieces of it broke off, and they're scattered across the front yard of this house. Now, we're talking 80 miles an hour. That's how strong the winds were. We saw actual furniture blowing down NC-12. There's a lawn chair right over there in that corner by the fence. We saw road signs ripped off their posts. The winds, again, so powerful here in the Outer Banks as Hurricane Dorian moved through.
A lot of the worst of the storm is still to our south. We're seeing a lot of incredible videos coming from people along the Carolina coast.
Brian Farrell is here now with some of the best shots. What are you seeing, Brian?
Well, Nicole, you'll see some of the pictures behind me, kind of smaller there. We're going to blow them up. Let's start down and talk about Emerald Isle. We had actually mentioned this one earlier today. A little video here. There was a tornado water spout kind of combo there. The National Hurricane Center or the National Weather Service had actually tweeted out about this in particular. You see how things looked on the ground. It was out over the water at one point, too. This one actually is from the town of Emerald Isle and says shortly after 9 a.m. and explains about this spout and the tornado. Property damage in some areas. This RV park was particularly hit hard. However, as you see, no injuries reported, at least at the time when this picture was taken. Here we have a car too. This is Georgetown, South Carolina. You see how much water was coming into the roadways there. We should note Myrtle Beach area was particularly hit hard as far as the water levels. This actually is from Annieville, South Carolina. It's in that Myrtle Beach area, Pawleys Island, and you can see, kind of clever, beware the alligators. That's what the sign says, but there are probably other dangers hidden in those floodwaters. We all know about that.
We'll focus on the gusts here. How about Norfolk? 58-mile-per-hour gusts. So we were saying, gusts up around 60 plus for Southside Hampton roads. And here as close to the coast, we would see even some stronger gusts. And we've seen that already down towards the Outer Banks. A 47-mile-per-hour gust just reported from Murrow. And those winds really picking up now from the north. Duck, there you go. 74 miles per hour. The gust reported and recorded there at Duck Pier. 49-mile-per-hour gusts at Elizabeth City and Edenton. So, it's taken a little while. We knew the winds were going to pick up as we went through the late morning and into the afternoon.
And here we are. I want to show you. We're just about to head over the bridge here, and you can see some of these lifts. You can barely see out in front of you here. This is going over, and there's like sea spray coming up over here. We cannot see the bottom. And the winds here, Rick, if you want to slow down here, we can try to get a wind reading here while we're on air. But right now it's sustained at 56 miles per hour as Rick comes to a stop here. We can see the very rough surf down below the bridge here.
My photographer Carissa zooming in so everyone back home can see. The Avalon Fishing Pier, it's been here for more than 60 years. It's considered a huge icon here on the Outer Banks. So for part of it to be gone, a lot of locals here said it's heartbreaking. They're shocked to see it. And I mean, guys, take a look at those waves. They're roaring. They're so rough. We've seen them almost, they're so tall, they've been hitting the bottom of the pier. Now, the even crazier part is that we saw several people walking up and down the pier, like within the last 10 minutes. And we're not entirely sure if they're with management or perhaps they're just locals who know the owners or what the deal is, but they were out at the very end of the pier taking pictures. Now, speaking of pictures, a lot of people are out here, dozens, and this is only a portion of them. They're up and down the entire beach here, but this has become a huge spectacle here in Kill Devil Hills because the Avalon Fishing Pier is just that important. So that's the latest here in the Outer Banks. I'm going to send it back to you guys.
This is some of the damage Hurricane Dorian left in Elizabeth City. Downed trees knocked over power lines, causing power outages across the city. Heavy rainfall turned this stretch of Flora Street and Riverside Avenue into a lake, leaving dangerous conditions for drivers. This road is no stranger to flooding. Neither is the tiny shed on Margie Sawyer's front yard.
Lifted everything up off of the floor.
This time, she didn't take any chances, so she had its foundation raised last night. Because inside of it,
here's what I did.
A perfectly out-of-order art studio holds her most prized possessions.
It means the world to me. It's just my world.
Sawyer paints landscapes of different places,
birch trees,
changing seasons, and different walks of life.
This also is, this is dark. If I'm painting, I'm in a very good mood, and if I'm not painting, I'm in a bad mood.
She anxiously waited for the storm to pass inside of her safe haven, hoping the floodwaters wouldn't creep in like they have in years past. Dorian turned the lights off for many people in this town, but here, the colors within each framed painting
autumn colors
are the center of her universe.
Oh my goodness, just everything. It's just who I am. It's wonderful.
And for her, this is worth riding out the storm.
I think it's going to be okay.
In Elizabeth City, Adriana de Alba, 13 News Now.
This is interesting because last night we were able to tell, I hope you were watching the 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock special that we did, because I was noticing the storm shrinking on satellite, and I was saying that I really thought we ought to be lowering the projected winds for areas in terms of the Outer Banks, for Hampton Roads, to just bring it down another 5 or 10 miles per hour because of the fact that the storm was weakening, in my opinion. 2 hours later, they did lower it. And again, that was good news, as that helped to mitigate some of the damage here locally. But again, the storm continuing to move out to sea. You can see the winds 40, 50 miles per hour still over the Outer Banks, but it all moves out this evening.